If panning for gold interests you, you're in the right place. From a lot of pans of nothing to a couple flakes of actual gold, this video documents my experience learning to pan for gold the hard way and all the mistakes I made along the way. Welcome to the learning curve.
Hey guys, it is Mission Discover and welcome back to another video. And in today's episode of the learning curve, I'm going to be trying to do some gold panning. I've always thought this was a really cool concept, and being inspired recently by some other cool YouTube channels here in the outdoor creator world, I thought I'd give it a try. I've got some gear here that I'm going to show you in a minute, and behind me we have my local creek. This is walking distance from my house, and I thought for this video we should start small and build up. In this video I'm going to try and hit 4 locations, with each successive location having a higher likelihood to find good gold, at least in theory. We're going to see if that's true. This creek behind me here is pretty small. There's minimal information about it on pretty much any face. There's even very minimal fishing records of this creek. So obviously there's no records of people finding gold in this creek, but I thought that it would still be worth a shot. I've done a lot of research on some basic gold panning techniques and where to look. I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. And this creek has some of the signs that say there might be some here. So we're going to give this the old college try. But as I said, we're going to have some much more promising looking spots coming up later in this video. With all that being said, the first thing I want to do is run over my gear. It's a pretty basic setup. There might be some other things that could be useful, but I think we can get some good work done with what I've got. Alrighty, let's start with the core system here. In my backpack, I have a gold pan. I believe this is a 12-inch diameter pan. It's from ASR Outdoors, and it came with a whole kit. This whole kit was pretty cheap. I'll be popping it up on the screen right now so you guys have a reference for what this costs and what comes with it. They have a couple different options and different sizes, but this is the one I chose. And then in this top pouch here, next to my phone, I have the rest of the kit. It came with a snuffer bottle. Talk about the usage for that later. Came with 2 little vials to stick our gold in, as well as this little magnifying inspector tool. And then I just bought a case from the dollar store and rigged up some foam to keep it all nice and tidy in here. That right there is the core essentials for our gold panning mission today, but I do have one more item. That being a basic little spade, trowel type shovel, just to kind of get down into some of the gravels, since as I'm about to talk about, gold sinks, so you want to be able to get towards the bottom of wherever you're collecting your material from for the best chance of gold. So I got a little shovel to help me out with that. All right, now that we've talked over our kit, I'm going to talk over some basic techniques of where I'm going to look and how I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to get started. So the basic premise behind pretty much everything we're doing today, from the gold panning techniques itself to where I'm looking to find the gold, is all about the density. From my research, gold is about 19 times heavier than water, and it's 4 to 5 times heavier than pretty much every other type of rock or other mineral that you would have in your pan when you dig out your material. So essentially, if you agitate it enough, shake it around, the gold will start to sift to the bottom and everything else will be on the top. So you just do this over and over again and slowly take away the top layers after agitation, since you know that gold is not going to be in the top layer, until you end up with just this fine little stuff at the bottom where theoretically your gold would end up. That's the basic premise behind panning. I'll show you the specifics here in a minute, but it's also the basic idea behind where we're going to look for gold. Anywhere where the water current slows down is pretty much where you want to look for the gold, whether that be an eddy, an undercut bank, the inside of a curve. Those are good areas because you need a lot of fast moving water to move the gold since it is so heavy. Therefore, in areas where there's less current and slower water, the gold's going to kind of settle because there's not enough current to push that heavy stuff along. As I also mentioned, it sinks and ends up towards the bottom of whatever material you are looking at. Therefore, if we can find some really hard bottom or bedrock, we also think that's a great spot because it's not going to penetrate that stuff. It's too hard. It can't really sink through that. So if you dig down to the bottom there's a good chance that gold has collected there. Whereas other areas, over time, it might actually sink below what you can reasonably get to. With that being said, I know plenty of locations that do have that slow moving current. And I also know a couple areas where there's some exposed bedrock. So those are the areas I'm gonna look first. Let's get after it and see if we can find some golden treasure. Alrighty, so I'm taking a trek from the main access point for just a little bit, because as I mentioned, we want to look for some of that exposed bedrock. At least that's what my research tells me. a lot of these learning curve videos end up, you know, kind of figuring out what information online, because obviously there's a ton of advice from a ton of different people out there, what type of that information is really valuable to you and what isn't. What do you really need to get started and what is unnecessary? That's what a lot of these learning curve videos end up being, and I think that's what this is going to be. Just trying to filter through the tons of information that's available to you out there and figure out what's really necessary to know for a brand new person. Alrighty, as you can see on the far side of the creek there, that white stuff is exposed limestone. This is a limestone bottom creek, and this whole area has exposed limestone on the bottom. So I want to try and find an area where that current obviously slows down and that gold could pool up along this area, but this whole area has a nice bedrock layer, which I think is going to be a good place for us to look, at least according to my initial research. I think I'm going to take the pan and I'll take a shovel, so if we find a good area we can just harvest it on the spot. I got the waders because it is still April and it's not the warmest. So this, if you look down the creek channel, this bends that way slightly, but this whole area is kind of straight. However, this area is kind of a high bank, and there's a little bit of an undercut here as well. So I think this is the first area I'm gonna try, this general area right here, because as that water gets deeper, it starts to slow down a little bit. That's just basic fluid flow, physics type stuff. If you don't understand it, then just trust me on it. And then obviously that undercut bank will slow it down a little bit as well. So I'm gonna try and dig somewhere in this region, fill up our pan with stuff, and get to work. I think I'm gonna just start pulling up something. There you go, this spot looks nice. Yeah, my arm is real cold. This water is not warm. I'm also gonna try and dig kind of in between the crevices of some of these bigger rocks, because obviously that would be a logical place for stuff to get stuck as it's flowing down the creek. Any of you fellow fishermen will know that's a true statement. In my initial research, by the way, I did hear that kind of decomposing bedrock, because it kind of cracks apart, is even better than super hard bedrock. And this limestone is kind of mushy, so this is a promising location, it seems. We just gotta, you know, give it a shot. I'm gonna fill up this pan as much as reasonably possible before trying to pan it down. Go up high on the bank, try some of that out, because why not? Yeah, look at that limestone stuff, super cool. Here's what our pan looks like. I did quite a bit of video watching on basic panning techniques, but I've never actually put it into practice. So we'll see how this goes. Basically, what I learned, you get some water in there, make sure everything's nice and wet, and then you swish it around pretty aggressively, but trying to keep everything in the pan, and then you just let the water drain some of those minerals out. And then, as I was talking about, this agitation, because the gold's so heavy relative to everything else, so dense, the gold will eventually work its way towards the bottom, and us washing off those top layers, letting the water kind of pull the rest of the sediment out, shouldn't take away our gold. I'm just gonna keep doing this. I believe you're supposed to have the big riffles at the front, if I remember correctly. I'm gonna start getting rid of these big rocks, which I've heard is the proper practice. Obviously none of this even looks remotely like gold, so getting rid of it isn't a problem. I do want to break up some of this squishy limestone. It's kind of like gray clay almost. There's also a couple other cool things that we could find, such as garnets or fool's gold or platinum, and I'm obviously not opposed to finding any of that either. I've also heard that black iron sand is a really good sign for there being gold in the area, because that stuff's pretty heavy as well. And I'm not really seeing much But the next location that we are gonna hit up has a ton, absolute ton of it. Scraping away some of these bigger rocks. What's actually one of my biggest concerns is my ability to identify the gold when I see it, because the gold in my area is more than likely going to be really small, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to identify it, but we'll have to pan a little bit before we can figure that out. Just letting that water bring all these rocks out. Those riffles down in here. Is that gold? I don't know. I saw something that might have looked like gold. But those riffles down in the front should catch the gold on the bottom of our pile as stuff rushes out, because as I said, it is so heavy. Big chunk of limestone still sitting in there. See if I can break that up some. All right, there's not much stuff left in here. Yeah, I'm not sure about this pan. I have no idea. Obviously, this is the first pan I've ever done, so I'm not sure I should expect to get anything. But all right, let's try this. So the last step that people do here is kind of swish gold around, or swish the pan around, and then they kind of do like that. There is a wee bit of black sand in there. Not sure if you guys can see it, but there's stuff right in here that is black sand. But there's not a lot, which indicates that this area didn't have enough catch to it. Obviously we got that bedrock, which is really nice, but maybe it just wasn't a slow enough area to really catch the gold effectively. I'm gonna take a hard look at this, see if we see any. I'm not exactly sure how to do this little finishing technique. Oh, there you go. I'm getting it now. Kind of shake it around, and the stuff that stays in place the most should be the heaviest stuff. There's that black sand starting to peep through. That's a good indicator that I'm doing the right thing here. So anything up here has a chance to be gold. I'm not seeing anything that looks very gold-like. Let's try that one more time. Now let's take a look through. Is that a little garnet? I think I found a little garnet. I don't know. I'm gonna quickly take this over and take a look at some of this stuff with a little bit of a closer inspection, and then come back to you guys with some of the results here. Alrighty, I found nothing that was actually identifiable, so I'm gonna see if I can find a spot, maybe like right here under the slab, because that would definitely catch stuff. But I'm gonna see if I can find a spot where there's more of a definite like catch to it. This little corner looks nice because it's underneath this slab. There is defined bedrock here, and then underneath my feet, I'm standing on this, but there's like a little hole back in here. So if I dig back in that hole, there's a chance there's something that would be worthwhile there. So let's dig around in here. So this section right here is the most promising section on the creek that I can think of off the top of my head. So if I can't find any in this section of the creek, I think it's gonna be acceptable to move on to our second location. But I'm not giving up yet. I think I'm gonna try with that amount right there, and we'll give it a shot. I think I got some. Hold on here, Batman. All right, here's what I'm gonna do. Shake it all down to one side. Let out some water. Slowly bring it back to this side. If it's gold, it should kind of unearth itself there. Where's the piece? I was pretty sure that was gold, man. I think I got some. I see it. It's very tiny. It's like right there. Get anything out that I'm certain isn't valuable. Whatever this is heavy. I don't know what that is. That's kind of cool. It's very heavy for how big it is. Piece of lead or something. That's kind of cool. I have 2 little vials in the kit. Maybe I'll keep like garnets, pieces of lead, whatever else I find in one, and then in the other one I'll actually keep my gold. But I think there's some in here. That's the little piece I saw. Is that gold? That's the real question. All right, let's bring out our little kit here. Got a couple things that can help us harvest this. So I think in our bigger one, I think we're gonna chuck a little piece of lead or tin or whatever that is. Cool little something something. Yeah, look at that. Take a picture of it here so you guys can see it, because I know the GoPro won't actually focus on that. Right in there. Cool little find. Grab our snuffer bottle with a little bit of water. Did we get it? Guys, I might have lost our gold on a snuffer bottle failure. I'm gonna dig back in this hole right here that we found that piece in and see if we can get something else. Not much black sand. I mean, if they don't separate, then they're not gold, but I don't know if I'm actually doing it right or not. It's literally just like a little piece of dust, but there's some in here, and we successfully separated it. I had to do it multiple times to convince myself that it was actually gold, but I'm fairly certain now. What I gotta do is, first of all, I want to take a picture so that you guys can actually see it and appreciate how stinking small this thing is. Can I actually see that it is in there? Yeah, we got it in the snuffer bottle. And I think what I'm gonna do for this next location is head down to the Schuylkill River in a location where I know there's a ton of buildup of black sand, and see if that means there's any gold there. I'll catch you guys when I'm down there. Alrighty, we are walking down to a bridge underneath the Schuylkill River. I've done a lot of fishing at this bridge in my day, and I've also done some magnet fishing. During my experiences while magnet fishing here, I caught a lot of that black iron sand on the magnet, and I think it's going to be a really good spot. Obviously, as you can see, we've got some gravel banks here, and we have a piling that splits the water to go around it as it comes underneath the bridge here. As you can see, we've got a lot of current over here, but on this side, it's super calm. What that means to me is that, as I was talking about earlier, that slower water could be a good chance for some gold to pile up and collect. So what I'm gonna do is get some material from around the piling of this bridge, probably leaning towards this slower section, and pan some of this out, maybe in this faster water so it clears out nice and quick and stays clear. We can pan it here, collect some from around here in this gravelly area, and we'll see. This spot obviously has a little bit of current to it right here, but right up in here, it's just a lot of sand and a lot of buildup of debris. So I think I'm just gonna use the pan to scoop right there. Look at that. That's just a whole bunch of gravel and such. And I'm gonna just stand right here, pan this out. We're gonna find an absolute boatload of black sand here. I can tell you that immediately, just from experience and from looking at this pan. Got a lot of like shells and such in here. The pan overall per size of gravel is definitely a lot heavier, and that's a result of all this black sand, of course. I'm definitely getting more used to this motion as I go along. Not seeing anything yet, but it's a lot sandier. Definitely has more black sand than our last location, so still feeling okay about this spot as of right now. Gonna run it through our small riffles now. Alright, let's bring it back into the main pan here, like we did before. Not seeing any there. Little finesse panning at the end is what's actually giving me the most trouble. I'm just not good at knowing how much to do, because obviously you can be pretty aggressive with it and get everything to come down to the one end, but you only want to be aggressive enough to where you find out what's gold and what isn't. Alright, I did a little bit of thinking, and I wonder if along the actual gravel bar that I'm standing on itself, I wonder if there's any there, because if you think about it, if there's enough build up here, it means that stuff got washed and stuff settled here. So I wonder if working along the edge of the actual gravel bar itself will have an area where actual gold has settled as well, not just other gravel. So I'm gonna give that a shot. Shells immediately unearth themselves when I do that. Run it through the little riffles. Whoa. Hold on. Is that a flake? Is that a stinking flake right there? Let's see how it reacts to our little test here. Guys, I think I found a flake. Whether this is or isn't, I'm gonna take a picture for reference next to my finger. As I'm getting more experience with this, I'm able to pan it quicker and be more comfortable with not losing anything. You just wanna keep everything inside the pan, and it's really about timing. What I would suggest starting out is just swing it back and forth and slowly increase it until you have everything shifting between edge to edge of the pan without falling out. Do a couple twisting motions as well, just to recenter everything. That can help agitate it as well. Just keep it at the same angle and just lift up. You don't need to tilt or anything, just kind of lift up on it. It feels kind of strange, but once you get the hang of your pan, I just tossed some out the edge there, but that was stuff on the top, so I'm not too worried about it. Once you get the hang of it, it's really not too bad. And I've only been working at this for 2-3 hours between our first two locations here, and I'm already fairly comfortable with the whole routine. It's not too bad. When this little frothy water stuff comes out, I noticed this with the limestone, especially because it was all sort of cloudy. When that little frothy water stuff flies out of the pan, you don't have to worry about that, because that's such light stuff, and a lot of times, especially when I was using the limestone, it's just that kind of muddy water from the limestones flying out. There's nothing that actually has any weight to it flying out when you do that. don't see anything in that pan. I'm just gonna do the exact same thing, run a couple more, and I'll update you guys if I find anything. One of the things I'm learning throughout the day here, which isn't necessarily related to the process, just kind of a byproduct, you end up kind of bending over a lot. So finding a place to where you could sit down would be an absolute game changer if you do this for long periods of time, which I've been working for about 3-ish hours on gold panning today. So my back's starting to hurt. So standing up, once you got your water in your pan and you're actually doing the panning motion, and then just bending down to kind of take some of this top layer off and then bring it back up to do the rest of the panning. It's probably a good idea, or just finding a chair. That's gonna be absolute game changer for the soreness of your back later. I'm a pretty young guy, but I'm also feeling the results of today already. So just keep that in mind if you're looking to start this. Got that. I got a whole bunch of stuff in the bottom of the snuffer bottle that I'm gonna have to sort through when I get home, but I think some of it's gold, so that's a good thing. I've got limited time. I'm gonna do one more pan and then we're gonna call it a day for our first 2 locations. Another thing I'm learning while sitting here doing this is that a good indication that you're getting enough motion and enough kind of agitation when you're shaking your pan back and forth is watching the big rocks kind of rise up, stuff that you didn't see before. I'll take out all these big rocks, and then as you can see, there's not really any on the surface, but as I agitate this, especially near the edges, more big rocks will kind of pop up. But even more than that, the thing that's telling me, and I think it's a really good learning tool, are these shells. Something that's very obviously going to not be heavy, like these shells. As they rise to the surface, you know you're getting some good agitation there, and that's what's really helping me key in on how much I have to do this. You don't want to overdo it, because that's just wasted energy, but you also don't want to do it too little, you know, not agitated enough, not have your gold sink down, and then be missing gold. So these shells have actually been really helpful in teaching me how much I need to agitate it, as well as these big rocks. Just finding something that will rise to the surface as you shake it, and then keying in on that, I think is one of the most helpful things for any beginner, and it's definitely helping me today. Alrighty, got our snuffer bottle full of stuff. That's a wrap for day 1 of trying to figure out how to do some gold panning. We're gonna take this home, take a look at some of this stuff under some magnification, and get back to you. There's a possibility that literally none of this is gold. I hope that we have at least a little, but we will have to see. So I'll see you guys then. Alrighty, we're back home now, and I emptied the contents of the snuffer bottle onto the lid of our little storage container with a piece of black construction paper behind it. Now I'm going to use my little microscope lens that I've used in some other videos. Going to pop it on the phone, and we're going to take a look at some of this stuff, see if we can figure out if it's gold or not. Alrighty, we got the microscope lens on. Let's put it down. Alright, so that's one of the pieces that we're questioning, I believe. Under the microscope doesn't look very gold-like. That's another one of the pieces there, I believe. I know a couple of these pieces were ones we were looking at. That one looks somewhat interesting. Alrighty, I think what I'm going to do is take these pair of tweezers and start removing stuff that I know isn't gold until we kind of just have our pile of possible pieces of gold, and then we'll keep that. Alrighty, I have the potential pieces of gold separated out right there. Still not quite sure if they're gold, but after some research I figured out that white vinegar will actually make fool's gold and some other gold lookalikes change color when you let them soak, but gold won't change color. So I'm going to take our little pieces there and put them in here, and we're going to let them sit, see if they change color. Alright, got our little flakes transferred in there. Now we wait. Alrighty, so this is actually quite mind-boggling. As you can see, our gold is not really changing color in the vinegar. However, I did press on it with the end of a set of tweezers, and it broke apart into little tiny pieces. Gold really isn't supposed to do that, which could indicate it's pyrite. However, pyrite should change color with the vinegar test. It could also indicate it's mica, but mica is typically translucent, and this stuff is not translucent whatsoever. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm looking at here. I don't think it's gold, but I don't actually know what it is.
So here's the bottom line. That was not gold. Gold is one of the most malleable things out there, and it will not break apart like this. And as much as that was disappointing in the moment, here's what I took away from it. First of all, given that it took quite a bit to get these pieces to separate out, and often required multiple attempts, they weren't super different in density from everything else in the pan, and I don't think I would have realized that without this experience. As you'll see later in the video, gold is vastly different from everything else, and it really wants to stay in place. You can be pretty aggressive with it, and it'll still stay right in the spot it's in. And that will definitely help me throughout the remainder of this video. Secondly, if you're not quite sure, and you want to have another method of testing, there are definitely some that are better than others. Something like a streak color test would be great, but obviously these pieces are too small to do that, and things like the vinegar test are obviously inconsistent. My suggestion would be to use something to press on it and to test the malleability. From my research and from this experience, that seems to be the most consistent thing. So with all that being said, we're going to keep on trucking. Let's get right back into the action with spot number 3.
Alrighty, it is the next day and I've made it down to this awesome little spot. I've never been here before. I drove past it several times, but this stretch of creek here is known to hold not only some nice trout, but there's actually been a couple reports of people finding gold in this area, which is more reports than I've heard about our last 2 locations. Our second location was the Schuylkill River, a really big and long river, and I've heard almost no reports of people finding gold, but in just that little stretch of creek, I have actually heard of people finding gold, so there's definitely a better chance, better probability that we're gonna find some here, but you never know until you give it a shot. As always, we're gonna head down there and see what we can do. Alrighty, so I walked down here and immediately the first things that stick out are sandy with some black sand showing just on the bank, and lots of boulders, which are both very good signs that you have a spot that could hold some gold. I'm not exactly sure where I want to look as of yet. And this whole area looks pretty good, but yeah, I've got the little spade, trowel, shovel, whatever you want to call it. I guess I'm just gonna pick behind one of these boulders in a nice little sandy area and see what we can do. Let's get down there. I mean, might as well start right about here. Grab the pan. This whole area back here is a nice low pressure zone behind these big boulders. I think I'm gonna dig from right here. Very sandy texture. All right, I'm just going to stand right about here, pan this off, and I'll catch up with you guys once I have this all panned down. Wow, that's a lot of black sand, people. I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but as I shake it, you can watch those lighter sands kind of rise out of the black sand there. Yeah, none in that pan, but that amount of black sand is a good sign. I think I'm gonna do one more pan beneath this boulder and then check a different one. Alrighty, so I'm not sure if you guys are gonna be able to tell, but I think I found some bedrock underneath this boulder, which makes this yet an even more appealing spot. Ugh. I'm just trying to scrape away at that bedrock layer. and see if there's anything down here. I'm essentially digging down underneath the edge of this boulder. We'll try and pan that down and see what happens. That bedrock is a good sign. So seeing the abundance of black sand here not only gives me hope, but as I was looking at whatever that gold imitator was yesterday in the pan, it obviously liked to stay still a lot more than the other particles, but it acted more like black sand than gold. The gold will stay put even in comparison to the black sand, but seeing how this black sand is moving in comparison to everything else is really showing me the difference in what I found versus what real gold will do. Chuck some of these rocks out. This stuff will move with moderate water shaking, moderate amount aggressiveness in stratification, but real gold, you're gonna have to get pretty aggressive for it to move around much. And that's kind of something that I didn't realize until I saw what that not real gold stuff did. And now looking at the black sand, which obviously I know isn't gold, I can obviously see a big difference in the amount it moves around. So no gold in that pan. I think right there in that pocket in between those two streams there that come to that point, I think that's a good spot. I gotta figure out how to get over there. We also have a couple good options. That big thing there looks like a good option as well. I think I actually might try that one instead. So as you can see, fast moving water, and then there's way less pressure here. It's pretty deep as well. I'm gonna put the pan right there, dig down here, see if there's any sands. Oh yeah, there are. Ideally, I want to get as close to the lip of the boulder as possible. All right, I'm gonna keep on digging this section out, and then I'll catch up with you guys once I got this pan down. Not as much black sand at this spot as at the last one. It doesn't mean there's not any gold, but it's not like a great sign either. Get everything back in the pan. Nothing. All right, let's try this other boulder that we were looking at. Right here. Two streams go around it. So right behind it is where I'm gonna try. Move this out of my way. Right here. As you can see, I'm just letting my pan float there, and it wants to sit there because the pressure, the low pressure in this zone kind of keeps it in the spot, which is one of the reasons why the gold likes to sit there, because it slows down, the water kind of calms down, and it just pools up right here. I'm clearing out some of these big rocks with my hands so I can get down to the gravels. Whoa, what the heck is this? What is that? I don't know, but it's heavy, metal. I don't know what it is, but it's odd. Huh. I think this is an old split shot. That's kind of a cool find. Yeah, an old split shot, so that's definitely some lead. We found some, what I think is lead yesterday, but this is definitely lead. Old split shot. Yep, nothing. Man, Also a nice looking low pressure zone in between these. There's this, and there is this section right here where these two join. It's just tightly packed rock down in here. I just can't get down there. Ugh. Man, I would love to get down there, but I just cannot do it. So we're gonna try this little section over here. This looks sketchy. Yep, it is sketchy. Whoa. There was a little dace. But this section in floodwaters, these two sides will be ripping. So like maybe down in between them here would be pretty good. Whoa, look at that. Another little split shot. So, I mean, this is at least proving that I'm getting the heaviest stuff down to the bottom effectively. Because, boom, little split shot, which is lead. Put that back there. But I'm just not finding gold. It's also proving that I'm finding spots that do collect these heavy materials. It's just not a spot that is producing gold, which is probably a product of there's not much gold in my area. There's some, but not much. Not a product of my gold panning skills, so I guess that's good to know. I'm definitely going to come back to this spot, definitely going to do some more panning along this stretch of creek, see if we can find some before we head to Colorado for our last location. But I don't have super high hopes. Obviously my area isn't the best for panning. I'm just trying to see if I can find any at all. But yeah, I'm gonna take one more pan, see what we can do. If I don't get any, then I'll just update you intermittently throughout my next couple of trips. Just some super brief updates. We'll see if we get any. But the ultimate goal is Colorado, where we should be able to find at least some. So one more pan from here, and then we're gonna call it a day as far as panning. All right, well, unfortunately we didn't have luck this time, but there's always a next time. But yeah, who knows? Our next full gold panning session that will be shown here in this video is gonna be when we're in Colorado. Hopefully we find some before then, but if not, I'll see you guys there. Alrighty, so change of plans. We are now here at the lake house. I know I said I was going to hit up that stream that we were at in the last segment a couple more times, see if there was any gold before going to Colorado. But I did a little bit of research and saw a couple cool videos of people extracting gold from quartz. Here in Pennsylvania, there's a lot of flour gold, small gold deposits, and a lot of times it gets stuck in minerals like quartz. I think this is a really cool idea. And I think it's actually going to be one of our highest probabilities of getting good gold outside of our Colorado trip. So I'm gonna switch it up and try and take some of this quartz laying down here at our lake house and extract gold from that. I have not given up on finding gold the generic way from the creek, and I'll do that more in future videos, maybe do a live stream there, so on and so forth. But I think we're gonna switch over to this for now. Apparently, if you roast the quartz and cool it down really fast, it makes it super brittle, similar to heat treating a knife. And then you can crush it up really fine and pan down that fine material, see if there's any gold in it. Nice cold water. There's lots of little pieces, which I'm mostly just gonna collect everything, but like this piece of quartz, you can basically see right through it and it doesn't look like there's any gold in it. I imagine, just from logic, that a lot of times I'll see pieces of quartz that are kind of yellowy, like this one, and I imagine those are the pieces that would have little pieces of gold in them. I mean, I could be wrong, but that would make some logical sense. So, like this one, look at that, it's very yellowy. That could have gold, who knows? There's a whole bunch of little pieces I'm grabbing here, but what I'm really looking for is big ones, like this guy. That's a nice big piece right there with some yellowy hues to it, so that could be a good option there. Just gonna look all up and down here. That's a nice one, big piece right there with a little guy next to it. If this happens to turn out well, I think this is going to be a really interesting and fun way to harvest gold in Pennsylvania, because obviously it takes a lot of work to do all the gold panning, especially when a lot of places in southeastern Pennsylvania aren't great for gold. The biggest deposits of flour gold, which still isn't very big gold, is up towards the northern part of Pennsylvania from the Great Lakes. It's glacial gold that got carried down here by glaciers back in the day. So I feel like this actually has a lot higher probability of getting us some good gold. We'll see. I have enough experience with quartz, especially with my grandfather, he was a science teacher. He taught me all about lots of the rocks that are up here at the lake house. So I'm familiar enough with quartz that I can identify it, even though it looks a lot different in different forms. Oh wow, look at this piece. That's nice. I could have some in it. All right, I'm gonna finish collecting this and show you guys what we got once I'm done. Alrighty, so there is all the quartz that we collected for the day. Going to just chuck this all in a plastic bag, and I'll see you guys when it's time to roast these, get them nice and brittle, and continue on with this process. Alrighty, I've now made it home, and I'm down in the dried up creek tributary by my house. We got all our quartz in here, as well as a couple other items I'll talk about in a minute. And we have my little stove. As I mentioned earlier, once you roast this and quench it, it makes it super brittle, easy to break apart. You can grind that up into dust and then pan that down, and that has a decent chance of having some gold in it. So that's what we're going to be doing today in the little stove. I'm going to make a little fire in the stove and put the quartz pieces in a couple at a time, get them roasted. We're going to have this bucket filled up with some water, and up on this hill over here I have my little chair. It's set up pretty far away from where I'm going to have the stove, because I've heard that there may be some toxic fumes that get released during this process. So obviously I want to be over there. As I'm just fueling up the fire, I'm just going to hold my breath, and then during the quenching process I'm just going to drop the rocks in with some safety glasses on in case they break apart, and do the same thing, just hold my breath and then back up for a minute. Not ideal, but doing small quantities like this, holding my breath probably won't be too bad. It's kind of mixed on whether this actually does release toxic fumes, but I'm not going to take the risk. With that being said, I have a whole pile of wood that I made up behind this tree here, so I'm going to start bringing that down, get the stove going, and we're going to get to roasting this stuff. I'll start a time lapse up so you guys can watch the process. Alrighty, it's the next day and I've got all my quartz here in the little Tupperware container. And over here I have a hammer and a towel. And I'm taking some of these larger chunks of quartz and wrapping them up in the towel so I don't lose any material. It's nice and brittle from that firing, but still, I'm just tapping away at this, breaking it down into some smaller chunks. And once I get down to maybe this size or so, I'm gonna chuck them all back into the bin, and then we'll break them down further later. Alrighty, so I've spent about an hour today working on crushing down this medium-sized quartz into the actual super fine dusty type stuff that we can then pan down. And I think I finally have a little system going that I'm pretty happy with. So I'm going to show you what I've got going on and then pan down the first stuff that we crushed up today. Alrighty, so here's the little process I've got going on. I've been sticking with the towel, putting it over top to minimize any possible dust that could flare up. I'm also doing it in the well-ventilated area, so I'm not too concerned about lung complications due to the aerosolized dust. I've heard that if you don't do this in a well-ventilated area and don't take precautions, it could be an issue, but since we're doing this, it should be fine. This also helps since I'm crushing these pieces down with the hammer and make sure that stuff doesn't fly off everywhere and we're losing all our quartz. But essentially, I just take a whole bunch of the medium-sized pieces here, chuck them on this rock. I picked out a nice smooth flat rock down by the creek, and then I got an Amazon bag that I laid out flat to catch all of our dust when we're done here. So the basic idea is you just lay this towel over top, kind of drape it over twice, make sure everything's good, group everything into a pile, and then get to crushing. It catches everything, makes sure there's no dust flying up into the air. Now I'm certain that's not perfect, but if we lift this up, you can see that we got a lot of this crushed down. Now this isn't fully ground down, but it's good enough that I'm just gonna do step 2 here. What I'm basically gonna do is cover everything with the towel and push it off. That way I'm careful not to aerosolize much of this dust here. And as I said, because it is outside, nice and well ventilated, anything that goes into the air should kind of disperse pretty quickly. Kind of shimmy and work this into the middle. Then basically what I'm going to do is chuck this into a bucket and run it through our little mesh bag to just catch all the small stuff. All this bigger stuff will go back in the bin for more crushing later. And I'm just going to repeat this until I have all of this done. This is enough to where I can go chuck it in the pan now and pan it down. I'm just going to keep doing this process until we have all of that finished.
As you can see here, I ended up classifying our quartz dust down to a sandy type material. And in the 2 pans of that sandy material that I did on day 1, unfortunately we didn't find any gold. I spent about 8 hours over the subsequent weeks continuing to crush and pan the material. And unfortunately our trend from day 1 didn't change a whole lot. There were a few specks that I thought were somewhat suspicious looking, and I collected them in the snuffer bottle. And upon inspection of those pieces, we had 1 piece of gold. As you can see in this microscope picture, it was actually still stuck in a small piece of quartz. Super, super tiny, but it's super cool to find our first Pennsylvania piece of gold. Unfortunately, that piece was really tiny, and I did lose it while trying to transfer it. But this small bit of success did give me enough hope to continue trying this technique in some future videos. And spoiler alert, the pieces of quartz that I selected weren't the best for yielding gold. I didn't totally know what I was looking for, and with a little bit of research, I think we'll have some more success in the future. With all that being said, it's now time to move on to our Colorado, which, little hint, did have some good success.
Alrighty, we've made it. We are here in Colorado. That is the Arkansas River behind me, which is actually known to hold some pretty legit gold. We got the mountains up there. There's the river. This is absolutely beautiful. And this is going to be the finale of this gold panning learning curve video. I'm going to use everything I've learned so far and see if I can break down a creek that's actually known to have good gold and actually find some stuff. All the places we've tried so far were kind of just hit and miss, give it a shot style spots. But this is actually a river that is known to have stuff. So I have some high hopes. Hopefully all this practice and all this knowledge accumulation pays off. We're gonna get right to panning and see what we can do. All right, so I'm suited up with the waders. I'm just gonna get right on in here. The first thing I notice is that this whole river is really fast. So if we can find a spot like this, right here, that right off the current seam, there's all these boulders and the water's a lot slower, that's a spot I'm gonna wanna hit. So I'm gonna dig up some material right here. There you go, get past that silt. Now we got some sandy stuff. Fill up a pan from right here. Man, this water's cold. This is probably runoff from one of those snow-covered mountains right there. This stuff is cold, man. But if we get a few little flakes, it'll be worth it. At this point in time, I have not yet found any. I didn't finish up all that hard rock panning, which is the section we did right before this. At this point in time in the video, you guys have seen the results from that, but I don't yet know what the results were because I'm only about 1/3 of the way through it by the time we got out here to Colorado. I'm gonna keep digging this crevice here. This seems like a real good zone. Finding lots of quartz right here. I'm gonna keep digging there. That's a good sign. I'm gonna pan that down. Put a little trowel right there. Walk on. over here. So there's a lot of light sediment buildup, like this muddy stuff, on top of the sections closer in, but right along that current seam behind that boulder, it's mostly just sandy, quartz-like stuff, which to me means that's probably where the gold's gonna accumulate, because it'll accumulate at the first spot where the water's slow enough for it to accumulate. So it probably won't be as much right there as it will be right there. Something to keep in mind. Yeah, there you go, getting down to the silty stuff now. There's some quartz surfacing. Check that out. Some of these pieces, these are more quartz mixed with stuff than stuff I find back home, which is actually a good sign of gold as far as my research goes. The more like different types of minerals there are in the piece of quartz, the more chance that gold got trapped in there when it was forming. So that's a good sign overall. Lots of black sand, that's a good sign. Oh my gosh, tons of it. A lot more than most of the creeks back at my place. Even the Schuylkill River, which comparative to most of the creeks in my area, has a ton of black sand. The Schuylkill River did not have this much black sand. I think I just saw a piece. Oh my gosh, there might be one in here, people. This is where a classifier, which essentially just pulls out these big rocks right away, would be real helpful. But for this learning curve video, I'm just starting with the bare basics, meaning just a pan. So we don't got a classifier. Lots of black sand, look at that. Got all that lighter sand coming to the surface. Pan it off. Just get these big rocks out of there. This is interesting. I might keep this just because it's cool. That's a literal green rock. What you right there? I've never seen one of those. Like a just straight up green rock. There's another one. Look at this. That's weird. I don't know what those are, but I'll look into that. Could be something cool. Something valuable, maybe. A lot of pyrite in there. I can see some pyrite, but I can't tell if any of it's gold yet. I definitely, over the course of this learning curve video, have become, you know, more able to distinguish like gold from pyrite and that sort of thing. That's for sure, because I'm looking at these gold flakes and I'm not getting super excited. They're very gold, they're very shiny, but if I like move my head a little bit, the shine goes away, which gold won't do. Pyrite will only reflect from certain angles. We're down to pretty much only black sand now. No light sands in there. That might be some lead. I don't know what that is, or ironstone. Oh my gosh. I think we have some, hold on. I'm gonna try and do a little reveal here, see if we got any. Look how much I'm moving this water just to get the black sand to move. That should at least give you guys an idea of how much I'm really gonna have to do to get that gold to move. Thus, if I find anything that's yellow, shiny, and I think might be gold, and it's moving with this much effort, it's not, because the gold's denser than this black sand. So it really shouldn't move much at all if it's gold, because oh my goodness, hold on, don't get your hopes up yet, Nolan. We found some. We definitely found some. Oh my gosh, it won't move at all, even with this much water. It's definitely gold. It's just so unbelievably small. I mean, that's the first definite gold that I've ever found. But it is so small. Oh my goodness. Hold on, I'm gonna do this again. See if I missed any in this reveal. I'm gonna shake it up real good. Get all that to sink way to the bottom. There's a little flake right there. Yeah, 2 little flakes. The same ones I found on the last reveal. There's one right there, You might be able to see it on the GoPro, and there's one that's super, super baby over there. I'm gonna go snuff them up, and I'll show you guys on the phone, which you guys will be able to see it better. Alrighty, check it out. That's like a single cent worth of gold. Yeah, there you go. That is a little flake, and there's another one right there. They are super, super small. But that is my first confirmed gold finding ever. So I'm actually pretty hyped about that. That's like a solid 2 cents added to the arsenal, but we got some. Alrighty, got the snuffer bottle, got my little gold container. This one I'm gonna put anything else that I find that's cool, because more than likely I'm gonna find other cool things, and I think that the bigger container is gonna be better for that, because we probably won't find anything super big for the gold. But yeah, I'm gonna snuff it up and pop it in here later on. So I actually finally learned how to use the snuffer bottle correctly. You gotta squeeze it before you put it in. Put it on top and suck it up. So we got some in there. I don't know if I can see my little flake. Oh, I see it. There he is. All right, got our 2 pieces of gold in the snuffer bottle. Let's go find some more. I'm just gonna work that further out rock where it had that quartz type sediment as opposed to all this muddy type stuff. Keep doing that off camera, and I'll update you guys if and when we find anything. Don't really need more panning footage. We got a lot of that in this video already. But gonna keep working this rock right here, and we'll see what happens. Oh my gosh, that piece is bigger. One fairly decent sized one right there. Couple little flakes up there. Sweet. See what pan number 3 has to offer. A lot of black sand in here. I probably could have got a little bit more of that out, but we should still be able to reveal some gold if it's in here. Yet again, look how much I really have to move the water around to get that black sand to move. It just goes to show you, it's really hard to be mistaken when you find gold, because it just will not move. Unless it's like a little flat piece that catches the water right, but even still, it still loves to just stay in place. There's a little flake. Yeah, like look at that. This little flake is right there. Ready? I'm moving the water that much. It's flat, and it's catching the water a little bit, but it's moved maybe 3/4 of an inch with all that water movement. It's still sitting right there. I think there's also one right there. So let's see if that's also a flake. It is. So we got 2 little guys in this pan. Right there's one, right there's one. Let's go snuff those up and add them to the pile. Another thing I'm learning to do is if you happen to get gold in a pan, like I have on literally every pan we've done so far in this river, go back through after you pull out the first time, because I keep finding extra after the first run through. When I go back through, it's a little baby speck, but there is a little speck right there that I happened to miss the first time. Alrighty, so I've worked that hole pretty hard, and I'm getting down to just basically hitting some bedrock type stuff. But there's this gigantic boulder right here, also on the edge of a current seam that I saw, and I'm gonna get myself up in here and try here. I'll pan this down, see how it goes, but I think finding a section like that little rock's actually gonna be better. So maybe like down here, we'll grab some stuff from down here as well. Maybe like right behind this rock. Doesn't look too bad. Move some of these out of the way. There you go. Yeah, this is more like that stuff that we were finding behind that first good rock. So I think this will be a little bit better. Alrighty, I'm gonna pan that down and show you guys what I got when I'm done. After this pan, I'll just update you guys intermittently, but this is the last pan where I'm gonna show the whole process. Alright, well, I don't have near as much black sand in this pan as I did at that other spot. I don't know if that means we're gonna get none or just a little bit of gold. I really don't know. But I think I actually really hit a good spot. Nice little jackpot area on our first try there. But yeah, unless this turns out a lot better than I think it's going to, I don't think it's going to be as good as that one over there. And I think after this pan, I'm just going to continue focusing on that area. But yeah, we'll have to see how much is actually in here. Oh, we got one. There's one, maybe two. Oh no, there's a couple little flakes in there. Three, I think. All right, let's go get these guys out. After I get these little flakes out, I'm gonna take back the snuffer bottle and the pan to the house and show you what our haul was for just this 1 hour of panning, so that you guys have a reference of what we're doing for the rest of the week as I give you sporadic updates. I just realized I've actually found gold on every single pan so far in Colorado. That's pretty insane. I guess that means I'm picking the right spots and I just happen to be in a good creek. I guess that goes to show you, even if you're doing perfect technique, if there's not much gold in your area, you're not gonna find much. We got, see?
Dude, I can see that.
See them? There you go.
Flower?
Yeah, I got one like kinda decent little guy, but most of them have just been stuff this size.
This is private property, so people probably haven't been poking around.
All right, guys, I'm gonna take back the snuffer bottle haul now and show you guys all the stuff that we got in this about an hour panning session. All right, got the snuffer bottle. Matt's filling for me. Gonna just dump it all in here, kind of shake it up a little bit. Get it all that back corner. Just rotate it around. Get that water swirling. Pull all that black sand away.
Let's see if we can see it. Oh yeah, we're catching the glints for sure.
Look at that. See if we can get it to all stay in one spot here. But you guys can see it.
Oh yeah.
See if we can get just gold and no black sand into that snuffer bottle. And then transfer it. Oh, I got a piece to fall down here. See if we can then transfer it.
Straggler.
That's a flat piece that likes to catch the water. But yeah, let's see if I can transfer this all into our little bottle there. Here's one. These are light enough that if you get them completely dry and then put water on top of them, they'll actually float on top of water.
You get a little water tension, surface tension action.
Which I've heard is a thing, but up until now I've never actually got the chance to see it, because these are my first little nuggets that I've ever found. Got them. All our gold is still in the bottom of the snuffer. I have no idea how to...
You need like an eye. You need like one of the, like a long eyedropper.
Yeah, I have no idea how to transfer it. That's the issue here. All right, y'all, I finally figured it out. If you take out the stem and the seal of the snuffer bottle, it's essentially just a funnel. And if you shake it around and dump it out, just like that, on a piece of paper, and all your gold will be on the piece of paper there. You can then let that dry out, carefully separate out all the black sand, and then you can fold the paper into a little chute and then slide it down into the bottle there. So I'm gonna let this dry and show you what I got. Alrighty, so the paper has dried out now, and I used this little set of tweezers that came with the kit to move all the little nuggets that I could find to right here. So we definitely lost a decent bit of our gold in that process, but now I know how to do it without losing a whole bunch, so I think we should be good. If I can carefully fold this paper here, make a nice little crease. All right, we got them in there. Yeah, our gold's in there. We gotta find some more so we can really fill up this bottle. But now I know how to transfer it, so we should be good from here on out. I'll keep you guys updated as we find more throughout the rest of the week. Alrighty, so I put all our gold, including the gold that was already in that little vial, into the pan just to show you guys what we got today. There's some super fine stuff that's kind of all clumped together. but you can see that there are some fairly decent sized pieces there. I'm gonna use the little paper trick and get this all set up in the vial, and we'll get back after it tomorrow. All right, we really quickly made some concentrates before dinner, and I brought them back to the garage to pan out. And there you go. I believe that's 8 little tiny specks. This is super fine stuff. None of the decent sized pieces we were getting yesterday, but that's only about half an hour's worth of work. I'll get these separated out and then give you guys some microscope pictures. All right, day 3 of gold panning. We're here at a little reservoir. I'm fishing, and the river's actually on the other side of that trail over there. Matt went down, grabbed some material, and he panned it down. He's still not super comfortable getting the concentrates all the way down, but we're not even done yet, and we have a nice little flake in there. There's a piece right there. Snuffer, the bang. Good little piece, first one of day 3.
Damn.
Those. This is good pan. I don't know what Matt was doing, following my instructions on where to look.
It actually was not places where you would think, because I don't have my waders on, so I hopped out.
This might just be a really good stretch of river.
I was only 5 or 6 feet off the shore.
But it was behind a rock, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, so that's...
Yeah, yeah. No, I got it from the right spot.
And the current's fast, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if any of these rocks will have a lot of gold behind them because of the fast current. Yeah. These are super fun, but they're here. If we keep going at this rate in this stretch of river, we'll be in good shape for today.
We're gonna retire.
It just goes to show you that, like, you can do all the hunting you want and do it all properly in one area, but some areas are just gonna have more than others, and that's the way it is. This stretch of river, there's some more, I'm getting it. This stretch of river seemingly has more than our stretch back home, and there's not necessarily a reason why.
They're chunkers, you can see them through the bottle.
The GoPro won't focus this close up, but you can actually see them down in the bottom there. We got probably 15 in there. Nothing super big, but hey, that adds up. Just goes to show you how inconsistent it is. Next pan from about the same area, nothing. We're moving into town now, so different prospects await. All right, so we've made it into town, and before we work downstream where I've located some good boulders, there's also this section right here where there's just sediment buildup in between these rocks, right off this current seam here where the kayakers are. So we're just gonna pull some sediment from right here and see what's in there. Gonna collect some right behind this rock. There you go, good stuff. All right, let's fill this bucket up. Alrighty, so we picked up all that material and ran it through the colander. We're gonna take this home and add it to our pile to run tomorrow morning. Day number 4, last day of panning here in Colorado. There's ice on the bucket, but yeah, we gotta get to work anyway. Let's get ready for some numb hands. All right, just a few flakes of gold today, I think about 7, and a whole bunch of garnets that I collected in here. I'm gonna wait to actually separate all this out and show you the individual microscope pictures until we get back home to PA. But that's our last panning session here in the Arkansas River. See you guys back at home.
This is all the gold we collected throughout this video, and there's only one thing left to do. That is to weigh it and see how much it's really worth. So I took our gold vial home, got an initial measurement of the dish on the scale, and then put in as much of the gold as I could. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get all of it to come out. Probably 2/3 of it was just sticking to the bottom of the vial, but what we got into the dish weighed in at 0.003 grams. Using the current price of gold and a little bit of math accounting for the stuff that's still in the vial, we got a grand total of about $1 worth of gold. I definitely thought it was a little bit more, maybe about $5 worth, but hey, it leaves stuff to aspire to. And the ultimate takeaway for me from this video is that whether you're in a gold poor area like we were in Pennsylvania, there's still a lot of fun that can be had panning for other cool stuff like garnets, or whether you're somewhere like Colorado where you're finding some gold but it's still pretty doggone tiny. It's a really fun experience regardless of the value of what you find. And having fun is really what matters most. So with that being said, that's all I'm going to have for you guys in this video here today. I really hope you enjoyed it and possibly even learned something. If you did, I would really appreciate you hitting the like button and possibly subscribing if you haven't, because I've got more informational and educational outdoor content like this coming your way real soon. God bless, and I'll see you next time.